the basic context in which I thought about this topic is basically when I interacted with a lot of PG students as well as young faculties in most of the state medical colleges. What one is really lacking, and everybody would want to know what is a publication, how to make it, and a lot of the 6 questions that anybody has on any particular topic. So when I was interacting with them, then I found this gap that why not we address this gap, which is very much important when a postgraduate is getting trained in a college, medical college. So with that background, I chose this topic for today's evening. And let me skip to my first slide. It's very interesting to see in the literature. I'm sure most of the postgraduate students, they are aware of where to look for when they have anything that needs to be searched for in terms of gathering some literature on a particular topic of their interest. So somebody has taken actually the pains of looking at how the postgraduate theses, or for that matter publication of some relevant literature, pathology literature that contributes to the medical literature is already existing. So this is an article which is published in Indian Journal, and
so you can start sharing, sir. Sharing you're not done now.
It's not done?
Yeah,
oh,
sorry.
Okay, let me do it. No, I think
it's coming now.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article which somebody has taken the pains to show how much of the value contribution as far as the postgraduate thesis is concerned to the literature that is available nationally. So the conclusion that this author has made is that though there are a little bit of publications, most of the publications that are actually generated in India are all data-based generation, because we do lack. This is only suggestive presentation, and no offense to anybody. It is only a suggestive. I can understand the limitations of most of the medical colleges and many institutes in our state or any other state, but this is only a beginner, so that at least we should identify that the times are changing, and at the same time we also need to change according to the times. So in this, what they have found is that though there is a little bit of accumulation of all the literature, most of them are data-based literature, but actually the ones which are contributing, adding the real scientific value has been found to be very dismal, which you can see in the conclusion of this particular article. By low scientific value, I mean that most of these articles which are generated, especially in our country, they are not much cited. I'll come to all that definitions and meanings of all the words which are usually used in the jargon of journal publishing. So with that, I think we all understand where we stand in terms of the number of publications that we actually bring up in our medical literature, especially in the national medical literature and national journals. I'm not moving. Yeah, so world over, if you look at very publication-wise, very active countries, there is a dictum saying that if you can't publish, you're going to perish. So you either publish or perish. You need to be very actively engaged in it. The culture of publications and publishing actually is something that needs to be drilled into the minds of the younger generation. The postgraduates have come into the first year of training. Those people are the ones who needs to be constantly put under excitement and enthusiasm, so that they will take up some amount of writing, and which will help them in their careers, in furthering their careers. So the dictum that one has to keep in mind is, if you are not publishing, you are stagnant, you are not adding value to the already existing literature, you are not contributing any of your observations during your training to the medical literature. I'm talking in the context of pathology only, mind you. And this is one dictum that I'm sure that pushes a lot of younger generations towards the direction of publishing. So what are actually publications? Publications are some piece of information, some piece of observations that you have made during your training or during your practice, and that you are actually contributing, and you provide that literature to the world literature. So you are adding up to the literature. Where do we get all our texts done from? Texts are done from based on somebody's studies over a period of years. All this gets accumulated, and these data gets published in journals, and all the texts derive the knowledge and the literature that is so accumulated in the journals, and they get them into the text, and that will be available to the students to read them. So the derivation of all this text, that the medical pathology textbooks that we read, if you see, you will have a lot of references at the end of each and every chapter. All these references are nothing but they are some material which is taken up from those journals. It is, everybody is contributing world over. And with the kind of technology and the kind of IT infrastructure that we enjoy these days, and the kind of publications and the pace at which these publications are happening is so fast, younger generation has to be in pace with what is happening world over. So my appeal to all the younger generation is to be a little more vigilant and a little more get interested in publishing your work, and how you do it, to what extent you can do it, and in the kind of limitations that you have in your hospitals, to what extent you can actually contribute to the medical literature. I'll come to that in a bit. So what are the different types of publications that you usually come across? So one should develop and inculcate a habit of, I'm sure most of the medical schools and hospitals, they'll be running their journal clubs probably once in a week or once in 2 weeks. They'll be having a journal club. The idea of this journal clubs to inculcate a culture in younger postgraduate students during their training curriculum, that they get used to, get that reading habit of journals, so that they accumulate newer knowledge on any relevant topic, and then you can adopt that in your day-to-day practice. That's the main idea and motto of conducting any journal club in a medical school. So in that, I'm sure most of the faculty and the senior faculty must be encouraging their postgraduate trainees to come back with journal collections. I think most these days, you don't have to even physically visit any library also, which used to be the case 10, 15 years back. Now everything is virtual, everything is available online. You have free access to material. If you spend some money, probably an institutional subscription or something, you can gain access to a lot of information. This is an era of information. Information is plenty. You just have to grab it. So, and once you read that, you can categorize your publication. First, you have to get a focus on what is your area of interest in the pathology specialty. You have 4 or 5 regions of subspecialties of pathology, which includes clinical pathology, cytopathology, hematopathology, histopathology, oncopathology, whatever divisions that you have to have certain focus on what you're going to practice over the next coming years of your practice. So once you make a focus on that, try to develop and observe and get more updated on that particular topic by way of reading. Once you read, you develop the habit of writing. The ultimate objective of reading is to put something in writing so that you are transferring the knowledge to the next person. That is what the entire purpose of any publication is. So if you look at different kind of publications you come across in different journals, these are basically these kind of things. When you have a case report, because of depends upon the content you have. If you have a content that you have only one unusual case that is not being reported so Am I audible now? Hello? 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 Can anybody hear me?
You are audible, sir. Audible.
Audible.
I was audible before also. Is it?
No, you are audible. Audible, sir.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, if you look at the different kind of publications that you come across in different journals, is case reports, and you can, if you have a little observation that you made, which appeared to be a little novel and original than what is published so far in the literature, you can always communicate to the editor that in the form of letters to editor or a small sort of a brief communication, you can always convey that to the editor of the journal. And or if you have a very rare and unusual and very interesting clinical picture, even it can be a common picture also. If you have something that to show and share it with your peers, then you can publish some clinical images also. Case series, if you have a, on a particular topic, if you have a series of cases that you have, and where you can study multiple variables and intervariable, intervariable relationships you can study, that also you can publish. Original articles, this is the main kind of an publication which is accepted everywhere, that it has of some scientific value. The scientific value, I'll deal about it little later in my next slides. Original articles is the content has to be original, and there should be something novel, and it should not be some thing that which is already done, and there should be some amount of deviation from which is already done. And you are trying to say that this is the kind of observations that you make, this is a kind of relationship with different variables that you study. You are contributing further to already existing knowledge. That is what makes out a original article. And review articles. Once in a while, these are the best ones to start for anybody who has an idea to publish. The best ones to start with on any particular topic. You have to be regularly updated. I mean, if you notice, some of these publications will be starting with something called recent advances in a particular topic. Recent advances in oncopathology, recent advances in immunohistochemistry. These are all nothing but reviews which were done for a period of 10 years or 5 years. They will compile all that. Most of the review articles are all invited authors. They will be invited by the editorial boards of all eminent journals, and these people will be invited to contribute to their journals. So this actually are invited who have invited to the authors who have a significant amount of experience in that particular field, and they will compile the data that is there for the last 5 years or 10 years, and they use a different kind of mechanisms and tools like Cochrane review, and all these are available. I'm sure the younger generation will be knowing all that. Once you put into that, you will get a data, and you can do a meta-analysis of that. And once you do a further meta-analysis and study it thoroughly, then you come up with new observations that form the bulk of review articles. That's where you get recommendations. That's where you get the certain protocols and guidelines and references. All those points will usually come from review articles. These are the kind of broadly, these are the kind of publications that one would get to see in any journal that they pick from the library. So yeah, so now I am going to address the basic queries about this publication. The basic queries anybody would get is how, what, where, which, when. So I'm going to start with how to make publications. So as I told you, you have to focus an area of an interest, or if you come across any case which is which appear to be very interesting for you, or if you feel that it needs to be shared with the page because you have something different to discuss in that particular case, you can always try to write it down. So for that, you have to make a little bit of preparation for that. You need to collect the relevant content that is required. If you need a material, if you need the review of literatures, the existing literature which is already there available in the PubMed or any other medical library online, you can access all that and see what has been published on that particular topic so far. And the best way of getting that kind of articles is to see the latest last 2 years publications. Who is the one who published maximum number of cases of that particular topic that you are interested in? And this constitutes the review of literature. Review of literature forms the main and the most time-taking step in any publication. Unless you are not sure about review of literature, you will never be able to draft a publication. This is the drafting of the publication. The draft that you make in the initial stages is actually called as a manuscript. So once that manuscript, it has to be, it will have a lot of subheadings which I will deal in next slides. You need to have a thorough understanding of the topic, and this all constitutes your thesis preparation also. But thesis is usually during my times or probably 10 years down the line, people used to just do the cut, copy, paste work, and nobody used to bother what is written in there, whether it actually can be converted. Any thesis, the idea and objective of any thesis is to get it converted into a publication. And I'm sure most of the theses are just getting into the dumps and not getting published. So it takes a lot from making a thesis and getting it published. A lot of exercise has to happen in between. So that is what it is. Once you have done that review of literature essentially means that you dig out a lot of literature on the topic of your interest, and then you study thoroughly. And because all this is going to help you in trying to explain to the reader or the peers or editorial reviewers to tell that you are writing something different, which you have found different. If there is no novelty and originality in your publication, your acceptance of your publication is going to be very, very minimal. So you need to be novel, you need to be innovative, you need to be coming with different idea, different hypothesis or thesis, that this is how it is and this is what I have found. The reasons why I have found this is these are the ones which have come out of reading a lot of review of literature that is available. So that answers the how part of how to make publications. Now, when to make publications? I mean, most of the students, during their curriculum, during their training program in the 3 years, they will, I'm sure they'll be having plenty of time to actually do this exercise. And I encourage a lot of younger generation to actually and seriously pursue this publication, because as I told you, the dictum is publish or perish. You need to be, that's how you have some pride in what you are contributing. People will know about you, you gain expertise. And if you want to get into academia and teaching faculty or something these days, the qualifications itself, they may ask you to furnish some publications, and all this will help you in your career also. So you have to get interested in publishing, or if you are planning a career abroad, and people definitely look at the kind of body of work that you have done. So publishing is very, very important and a very good training aspect for a postgraduate training. So coming to when to make publications. So you may on a daily basis, you'll be reporting a lot of cases. You have found something different. So that is when it should ring a bell that, yeah, this needs to be published, and let me discuss with my faculty, let me discuss with my peers, and let me read about it, and let me go online and study about this. Is there anything that different that I found in this case? That should actually sort of trigger you and prompt you to make a publication in that particular relevant topic. So, and when you are reading more and more, reading articles, being online, spending a lot of time getting updated on the subject, you may get some ideas. So that idea, you have to see the relevance, because the single most important for the young and upcoming pathologists is something that I'm wanting to tell very on a serious note, is that pathologists have to make themselves relevant in the clinical domain. Unless you make yourself relevant in a clinical domain, you are not contributing any value to the medical science. That's where the role of a pathologist comes. Pathologist is a consultant's consultant. All the clinical people, they consult when they are stuck. They consult the pathologist, because we are consultants. So we need to be updated. And so coming back to this, any popular topic, you can take for COVID, for example. These days we are seeing a lot of COVID. It may strike to somebody, if you have a facility of doing morbid pathology or forensic pathology, you can always do up, sectioning and studying the organs which are affected, lung, for example. I'm talking about only places where you have access to morbid pathology, and or you can study some clinical parameters or clinical pathology parameters in COVID patients or something. So this is some kind of ideas that you need to generate, because publications, if you look at the way the COVID has evolved in the last 8 months, look at the kind of publications. They have come in thousands and thousands of publications must have come on just COVID alone. And if you get onto the online, you can see COVID publications in terms of what is happening in the lung, why patients are dying, what is the endpoint which is actually making the people die. All this data, all these pathology reports and journals and articles, they're all available online. So that is the speed at which publications are happening, the kind of tools that we have at our disposal in current times. So that popular topic, you can just, for example, hematological manifestation in COVID patients. Whatever your material you are getting of those COVID patients, you develop an idea, innovate it, try to pursue it, and then make some sense out of what you are observing. So as an area of interest is very important. Wherever you go for any interview or any academia position, people will definitely ask you what is your area of interest in entire pathology specialties. So you should have some focus on that. So coming to the next, where to make publications. Well, yes, you have got the relevant material, you've got good cases to report. Then you should think about where to publish it. I have known people who have asked me, can I publish this? Can I publish in this particular journal? You have to choose your journal. Choose your journal means the relevance part comes there. The topic, there'll be a lot of journals which are available. They are all index journals. You can have access to them in PubMed or anywhere online. You can have access to all of that. So if you are reporting a head and neck tumor, there are journals available for head and neck also, or journals available for ENT specialties. These are the two relevant journals. Suppose if you have a hematology case and you want to publish it in ENT journal, nobody will accept it. So you have to have that relevant fit for your topic that you have chosen. It has to fit into a particular journal. So don't make this mistake of publishing it anywhere. People will not accept it like that. So people will have a journal, especially for breast pathology. So if you have a case of breast, it can get published in breast pathology. So similarly, you have diverse specialities of journals that are available. You have to pick and choose your journal. That is number one. Based on the topic, you can choose your journal. And in that, if you have multiple journals of the same topic, then you have to, our journal, sometimes you can publish in medical text also. Medical text comes a little later because one has to gain experience in putting up literature in journals first, and subsequently you can get trained in writing text, because it's a compilation of all articles that are available, and you have to make an actual chapter on that particular topic. That is a relatively a little difficult task for any postgraduate training. So yeah, so how do you select your journal? That is number of based on the topic that you have selected. And secondly, if you publish in a particular journal, what is your visibility? If I publish, how many people are going to actually see it? If you are very confident about your novelty and newer things that you have found in your observation, you have to make your publication more visible. But more visible, I mean that you get that kind of visibility to your writings only when you choose a right journal. The right journal which actually contributes a lot of significant clinical value. Or that means, in other ways, if you have worked on something, that should be in such a way that somebody else have to quote your work, that he has done it, so I'm going to take this work forward. I'm going to quote him that because he has found already what I have found, I'm finding something different. So that is what is called as a citation. So you have to choose a journal based upon what is called an impact factor. So impact factor is some calculation. I'll just show you how it is actually calculated. This is a job of all the online service providers, online resources. They will do all that stuff, PubMeds and all this. This is actually done by Thomson Reuters Group. They do this medical literature impact factors of the journals. The way, in essence, it is what has been the number of articles that are cited or quoted by somebody else is going to decide the impact factor of the journal. The maximum impact factor, the maximum readers are available for that kind of journals. And you'll be disappointed and surprised to know that none of the Indian national journals, even the topmost ones, will not cross an impact factor of 3. On a given scale of a world literature, the toppest impact factor, say it is about 47, that usually is given in areas of biology, cell biology. These are the kind of journals which enjoy an impact factor of 47 plus or 60 plus. And on an NEJM, the clinical side, the NEJM enjoys about 30 impact factor. So impact factor, I mean, it is the number of people who are reading it, number of times that the book is referred to, number of times the articles are quoted in that particular study. And this is how the impact factor of that any particular journal is calculated. So, so I mean that anyway. This is you can Wikipedia it and you can see what an impact factor is. And this is basically they take the data of 2 years as a cutoff, and then they calculate the impact factor, and that's how the impact factor of all the journals is done. So now you know where to publish it. Now coming back to what you have and what you want to publish, which publications to make. So as I told you, there are different kind of publications. It all depends upon your content that you have at your disposal. If you have only a case, a very, very interesting case that you've recently come across, you can put it as a case report. Or you have only a little bit of communication that to do that somebody said something on something and you wanted to differ on that. Your opinion differs from what is already existing in literature. You can always communicate with the evidence that you have developed, and evidence comes with your study. So that study, once you have done it, I mean, again, in the context of COVID, hematological manifestation, somebody has found something and you have found something different. Or if you have any different observations from what is already existing, you can always communicate to the editor. So that also will be considered as a publication. So, and if you have a case series like 10, 15 cases of some particular topic, then you can do that publication as a case series publication. If you have most of the thesis that you do, they should have a original content. Original content, again, it comes with a lot of reading. You do the review of literature, select a topic, review of literature, and then this is what it is done. You have to get to the level of pathophysiology and understanding the pathogenesis and those mechanisms, then you'll be able to come up with a different idea. Why can't I check this? Because already existing literature and authors that have published before, they have checked different things. I would want to publish a different perspective of the same topic. So then that becomes the original content. If you have confidence of building up that much of material with you, because in your 3-year tenure, then you can put up all that material and try to build up an original article and publish it. So, and review articles usually is a compilation of whatever has happened for the last 5 years. It's a gist actually of all what has happened in the last 5 years or 10 years. So then moving on to review of this forms the basic bulk of publishing. If you are thorough with this review article, you know what to write. If you are not sure about the review of literature, if you don't know what is already existing, then how are you going to put your paper forward? So think about it. Review of literature is the now everything you have ready. You have done review of literature. You have the content. You have selected the journal. This is what I wanted to publish. You have discussed with your faculty, discussed with your peers, so you are good to go. So if you want to publish, then you visit that any particular journal site, and you will have every journal will have different guidelines. You know, they on their dashboards they display these other guidelines. So everybody would want, because everybody would say somebody will give you an authorship of only 3 or 4 people, and you will have one corresponding author. One corresponding author usually will be the senior most faculty, and the first author is the one who actually contributes more. And every author should contribute. It's not that simply somebody is there, is your buddy or something, I will add on to that. It should not be like that. Everybody has to contribute to that particular kind of paper, because all this will ring a bell if somebody really goes to any other country to practice, whether UK, US, Australia. This is the kind of culture that is existing there. I'm of the opinion that this same culture will be inculcated in our medical schools and other hospitals as well very soon. So if you look at the dashboard of any journals, so they will tell you, they will guide you how to put up a manuscript, or because most of them will have a limitation on the words. This is the number of, because if they allow you to write, you may write 10 pages or 15 pages, because they have a space constraint, because it is saleable, and they have to print it, they have to color print it. Sometimes it all depends upon how much you pay for it. Some journals will be paying, some journals will be non-paying, some journals will be open to all, some journals will be restricted. You have to buy to study an article. It all depends upon the impact factor of that particular journal. So once you look at the dashboard, they will guide you what needs to be done. So in the manuscript, what are the subtitles that you need to have? Most of the subtitles that you have come across in thesis, like you have an introduction of the topic, you need to convey the topic, the basic premise and your perspective on the topic that you're going to deal and study in your article. So that forms the introduction part of it. And you have to choose a title very wisely. And the title should be very catchy, innovative. Otherwise, why would somebody read your article only? It should be very catchy. The moment if somebody is interested in that particular area of topic, then he will definitely get attracted to the title. Title makes more eyeballs. So you need to focus on a good title. Title again comes up with what your conclusion is. If your conclusion is very innovative, that will give you a very good title. And somebody will tell, you have to have utmost importance to ethics. You can't do all this cut, copy, paste work, which is very rampant, especially in India. Now, what is called as a plagiarism detection softwares are also available, and they can easily, the journal or editorial boards can easily find out if somebody has copied the content from some other journal. So these ethics have to be followed strictly, and the content has to be original, which has to be supported by the thesis or the hypothesis that you're going to discuss in the discussion part of your article. And you have to submit yourself certain declarations that you don't have any conflict of interest, and you may have to disclose who has funded it, because anything that comes as a commercial into the publication is likely to have a bias in it. So we need to disclose all that. These are certain norms that most of the journals they will ask, and we need to abide by that guidelines and rules, and we have to sign the documents and send them back. And if we deviate from any of these guidelines, and if you are caught in plagiarizing, if you are caught in deviating from the ethical guidelines, then we have every chance to get blacklisted. And that is one thing which is very, very serious thing. So I'm sure most of you must be aware of this scientist who has done about 30-40 years of his service and intense research. Is a South Korean or a Chinese or a Taiwanese scientist who has spent all his life on stem cell related research work, and finally was caught with some cut, copy, paste work. Probably even without his knowledge, his team must have put in that, and he was blacklisted. and all that was shown to the public that he was so disreputed after that. So one should be very mindful of these integrity issues. And somebody will suggest the kind of language that we need. It should be inclusive. If it is a collaborative effort from multidisciplinary, a multi-hospital, or a multi-medical school, you need to be inclusive. Use that inclusive language, because all this will decide on your acceptance levels. If you deviate, it will keep on reviewing, and the editor will send it back and forth. You have to review it again and again. And then, before that, if you go through all these guidelines, you can put up a good journal article right at the beginning. So you need to study these guidelines very properly. And then, as I said, other contributions, every author should justify their presence in that authorship line. So everybody should contribute. Somebody must have contributed on the images part. Somebody has contributed in intervariable relationship studies, or somebody helped in putting up statistics, or somebody has helped in discussion part and all that. Somebody has helped in references part. Others' contribution has to be there in that particular document that needs to be submitted to the journal dashboard. And if there is any change of authorship, you need to notify them. And there will be something which is important that is called copyright, because every journal, if it is the higher impact factor, they will be very particular about this copyright. Why? Because once you submit, the content may be yours, so they don't take any ownership of the content what you are writing. The content ownership is of the writer. They just make you recommendations that if there is any deviation from the guidelines that the journal follows, or if there is any grammatical problems, or if there is any analysis, and if it is not making any sense, then they will always suggest the editorial peer review group. They will suggest certain changes which we need to change. And then comes the copyright. Once it is published, they will ask you to sign an agreement saying that once it is published, though you are an author, they have every right to sell it. So that's where this copyright issue comes. Though you have certain rights with you as being an author, and the publishers will have the copyright that they can use it in spreading the message and spreading the literature around. They can publish it in PubMeds and all these medical websites. And then they can sell the journal articles also to other viewers. So, and you have to always tell where the source, if it is a big study or a multi-institutional study, multi-medical school study, you have to always mention about your funding source. And yeah, so this is how you, and the basic, as I told you, the basic manuscript subheads will be introduction of the topic. And then you have to mention about your materials and methods. These are all the subtitles that you come across in your thesis, materials and methods. And then once you're done with materials and methods, then your materials and methods, you have to write about clinical information and the clinical details and anything related to the patient. You mention all that. And then if you have done any procedure and the results of that procedure, for example, you've done an immunohistochemistry on some oncopathology topic, then you have to tabulate all that. And then you show certain schematic diagrams, you do some statistical graphs and all that. And all these pictures or whatever you are writing in the articles, they need to be of certain specifications that the journal dashboard will suggest. Somebody wants it in the JPEG format, somebody wants it in a particular resolution of image. All that you will get to know once you read the guidelines of that particular dashboard. So once you get that, you make all that arrangements ready. And then you need to upload all that in an online. Most of these days, you have online access to submit your journal. You need to upload your manuscript, and you need to upload your images, your statistics, your data. Coming to that subtitles of your article, materials and methods, and then you talk about your results, and then analysis part, and then finally you come to discussion. Discussion part again forms the major bulk of what you are trying to discuss and trying to convince the reader that what makes your publication different from the existing literature. In that, you're going to discuss the new thing that you have discovered. So that makes the bulk of your discussion. Once you discuss, then finally you will conclude based on the discussion, based on your study and the results that you have made, that this is going to be this different from what is already existing. So this is, you are passing the mantle to some other reader who is going to read your article so that he will take your contribution to the next level. So that's how it goes. And these, you can submit videos also, online resources, sometimes pictures, and that forms the discussion. And you have to, there's an important word about references. You have to adopt a style called Vancouver style. It's not that just cut copy paste of references. No, references, there's a specific style of and format of writing references. It's called as a Vancouver style. So this is easily available. You can see how the format of Vancouver's style of reference writing is given. You can access that online. And yeah, and subsequently, once all this is done, you have submitted. And yeah, in a manuscript, certain journals will suggest you, I can't take more than 200 words. I can't take more than 500 words. That is the limitation that you need. That essentially what it actually teaches you is you're trying to convey and communicate a message in a minimal number of words so that the reader won't get bored. There should not be any repetitions of what you are saying. And you may have to sometimes use an acronyms, and you may have to use abbreviations. You have to mention somewhere that this abbreviation actually means this. So that way you can work on your number of words, and you should not cross the number of words that actually the journal website suggests. So these are the things which I've already discussed, and it should be spell checked and grammar checked. This is easily available. The kind of Microsoft tools that we have, we can do all that in a click of a button. So all that, once you are done, as I told you, ethical is covered, declaration of interest, conflict of interest. If anybody, you have to make sure that what you are writing and what you are publishing, nobody else should have done the same thing in any other journal. That again constitute a conflict of interest. Somebody has done the same thing. They are trying to publish your work, or you are trying to publish their work. It should not be a matter of conflict. So that you need to check. And all this actually we have already discussed. Yeah, as an author, you have certain rights. You can always share it with your peers. You can download them. You are entitled to get an original copy from the journal editorial board, and you can access it whenever you wish to have. And as I told, the structure of publication is what you essentially do in your thesis, introduction of the topic and all that. Submission and post-submission process. What will happen once you are published? So then it will go to the editorial board, and the editorial board will decide and send your article to different reviewers based on who are there on the editorial board. And if editorial board usually consists of about 30-50 people, doctors, pathologists of different specialties who are experts in their field, and they will read your content. They will see. They will suggest any suggestions that need to be made, and they will cross refer it to the another peer, and they will give the suggestions, and those suggestions will be sent back to you as a feedback, and you have to make answer those queries, itemized reply you have to give. Once they are convinced with the kind of answers that you give for the kind of queries they ask, then they may accept it, they may not accept it. If they accept it, then it will go to the next level of publication. So that you go for print. So it will be, it's going to be a blinded peer review. It may be unblinded peer review, or it all depends upon the impact factor and how big and how popular the scientific journal is. So my messages for the postgraduates is that start developing your focus of interest, any area of any subspecialty of pathology. Start reading, and you have to read more and more recent reviews of any particular topic, which is of day-to-day daily reporting. And if you want to publish, you have to plan and design a study, and most of your faculties can help you in designing that particular studies on any topic of your choice. And you have to do a lot of literature review. That comes with a lot of reading, online reading, review of literature. Once you are thorough with what is there available, you can plan and study the design that you want. And a lot of retrieving of data. This is easy. You can access it online. You can perform a procedure if it is a prospective study, collect the material, patient material. You can study if you want to do an IHC, or if you want to do a molecular study, if you want to do a tissue microarray or whatever. These things you can do as a prospective study. Learn that procedure. That will add on to your skill set and will help you in your furthering your career. You have to make a lot of scientific discussion with your peers and discuss with your faculty and start publishing. And cultivate this habit of publishing. Unless you publish, you're going to perish. So this is, and these days you have a lot of indicators of which doctor has what grading and all that. These kind of things are available. So this is one such website which is called ResearchGate, which will tell you how much publications this doctor has made and what are the citations that he has got, and how many people have read his body of work. So this is actually mine. about 136 citations and probably 1200 readings of all my articles which I've done. So similarly, you have to, this will add on to your CV. Wherever you go, you can always quote this as your CV. That will not only give you a lot of pride, but it gives you a sort of sense of accomplishment and a sense of, you've done something during your training period and even further. So, and coming to, this is one most important message to all the postgraduates. When you're reading medical literature, read as if you have to write someday. And write, when you're writing something, you have to always assume that if some reader has to read it, what should be the content? If you imagine yourself that you're going to read your own writing. So you have to prepare yourself in such a way that you have to convince the reader. So that is the main motto of your publication. So with that message, I think I've taken enough time on your weekend, and I'm going to leave it at that. And any more questions? I would like to have more and more questions from postgraduates, and don't feel shy. It's just an interactive session. And my intention is to make you, come forward, discuss, and start developing and developing this habit and culture of publishing. Over to you, Dr. Kiran.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. So now, after the wonderful detailed presentation by the today's speaker, now I invite all the participants, they can interact with the speaker, because speaker wants good interaction from the audience. So participants can please ask their questions. Any doubts they have, they can interact, and they can unmute and they can ask the questions.
I'm not hearing any voice.
Any
Dr.
questions from
Upendra,
anyone?
good evening.
Yeah,
Dr.
good evening.
Upendra, good evening. Good evening.
Hi.
This is Dr. Ramaswamy from Kupam.
Yes,
I wanted your thoughts on studies being conducted between multiple institutions, because that never happens usually in our country.
correct.
So what is your thought on multi-institutional studies, especially with residents being involved?
Yeah, very much, sir. Very good question. Actually, it is high time that we start doing that. I think all the HODs of all the medical schools, I think should start talking to the curriculum, whoever prepares the curriculum at the university level, and then it's high time that actually probably somewhere in the north, I'm already seeing it happening, but somewhere down south and in our states especially, we should be having that kind of an institution, because at the level of HODs, and they will be having their own peer group, which I'm sure will be more than happy to share with their body of work. And then I think it's high time that we get, some push into the university level, and whoever designs the curriculum, and they should take that initiative and get this thing done for the benefit of all the postgraduate trainees. I think that will add up a lot of bulk to the publishing the literature.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions from anyone? They can please come forward and ask. They can interact with the speaker. Sir, one question I have, sir, for you.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Sir, in some magazines, we have different type of sections, like some case reports and also the research papers and letters to editor. So many other things are there. So other minor sections, what importance they have, sir? Letters to editor, or some like that, some small sections which are there, where we send our opinion in a brief note. Will that carry any weightage or any importance, sir?
No, usually original articles are the ones which will get the maximum credit.
Okay,
So
sir.
original articles are the ones which get the maximum credit. And because there's nothing yardstick as far as, picking and choosing a faculty who has published and all that, I'm sure in the coming years, all this will be in place and a lot of emphasis will be put on that kind of publications. I'm sure it happens in most of the institutes, but I'm sure it is time that it percolates down to the medical schools in the states as well. But I would suggest, I don't know how many of the medical schools are actually doing these journal clubs on a regular basis. So that's where the ignition starts for any postgraduate. That's where they get their ideas from. So any publication, it's a good to start. Even if it's a letter to editor or brief communication or something, it's good to start. That develops a habit of writing.
Exactly.
The habit of writing comes with a habit of reading. So having a good journal club will inculcate a habit of reading. So once the reads, that will automatically prompt one to write. So these two are interlinked. Any publication, it should be encouraged, especially for the trainees. It needs to be encouraged. And journal clubs should be part of the curriculum. It has to be intense. It has to be conducted in a very serious way. It's just not the data that gets collected. It has to make some sense and some relevance, because a pathology specialty not providing enough relevance clinically is going to become irrelevant. So we need to make more sense in the clinical domain if we were to convince the clinical parties. So that's where it comes. You need to enrich our knowledge by reading, updating. Then that comes only with the art of publications. So my suggestion would be any publication is good enough.
Yes, sir. Ultimately, one should develop that habit of, it should be part of our career to publish academic career.
Yes, please.
We should make that habit. Thank you very much.
Younger generation, if they want to go to US, anywhere outside, you need to publish.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You look at what you have done. Even that is a testimonial for what you have done in these 3 years.
Exactly.
So even the medical school students in US, they publish.
Exactly.
I'm talking about MBBS students. They publish.
Wonderful. Yes, sir.
So postgraduates in India, they should have this habit of publication.
Yes.
They should have that habit. That's what the main intention is. So you have to remember, publish or perish. That is the dictum world over.
Yes, exactly. Any more questions from anyone, please?
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Neeraja, sir. So I just want to have some clarification regarding this ethical committee approvals. So somebody is saying that ICMR is not giving permission to do a dissertation work on COVID studies. Is it so, or can we give, sir?
These guidelines, they keep changing, madam. I'm not aware of the recent guidelines, and I'm sure it will change. Sooner or later, they're going to give that permissions, because now, right now, it is a very crisis situation.
Yes,
so once it becomes once the vaccine gets available and everything falls in line, and ICMR will definitely not stop it, because you have to study this. Already, certain publications, even in India also, they're trying to put up this data of what is exactly happening in the lungs of all these COVID patients. So initially, to start with, just to avoid any chaos, they will prevent all this. But sooner or later, they have to give it to the institutions if they want to do it, and if they have the right infrastructure to do it, they will not stop.
Okay, sir. Because material is more, but there is no clarity. That's
so you can always write to them, madam. You can always write to them. And one rule may not apply to all sometimes, because if you happen to see a lot of COVID patients, if you have the material, you are doing a great service. They are contributing to the medical literature, and you can talk to them one-on-one, and then tell them it is the situation that you have, and you have the right infrastructure in terms of safety protocols and everything. Then you are good to go.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Sir, I had one more query. Ramaswamy again here.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So this is the problem I feel which is unique to pathology as a subject. Since many diagnosis is usually done by the pathologist in any biopsy or any material which is submitted to us, most of the times the clinician just uses our diagnosis or images and never even bothers to acknowledge the reporting pathologist for that matter. So I think we should inculcate the sense in the residents that we own the diagnosis much more than anybody can do that. Exactly. So I think our contribution should be equally acknowledged in any publication done by our clinical colleagues, and not just they just come and borrow our images and be done with it.
Yeah.
I want to hear your opinion on that.
You're right, sir. You're right. So the reason why this happens is, by and large, it happens because of poor communication. So once you start communicating with them and you sound more relevant to them, and they don't find any reason to avoid you. So this is my observation, and that is what I want to inculcate in the next generation, that they have to have the communication channels open. That only comes with the confidence of reading. So that comes with you have to interlink pathology with clinical specialties. If you don't have it, then the other side would never get convinced. So this is something you have to question your relevance. It's just not that you made a diagnosis and that's it. So the diagnosis, what is actually converting on the clinical side, is also your responsibility. So that communication channel is something that is making us less relevant. So that kind of culture that needs to be inculcated into the next generation pathologists.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it was a good interaction with the speaker. I think there are no more questions, and all the questions have been clarified by the speaker. Thank you, sir. Now I request Kumar Guru sir to please convey his vote of thanks for this today's session and to our speaker.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I congratulate today's speaker, Dr. Upendra Srinivas, sir, for covering all the essential aspects of research publication, which is of paramount importance today. Initially, it was optional, we all know, but now it has become mandatory according to the university rules, and they have to publish their papers, whichever they are presented or they're part of their thesis, etc. At least, if not published, they have to provide a proof that they have sent it to the particular journal. Now we have to inculcate this research, what I call it as research culture. It is a culture. We have to inculcate the research culture among our postgraduates right from the incipient stage, that is from first year. Right from first year, we have to inculcate. So I thank you, sir, for your talk, which will definitely put some insight into our postgraduates and definitely benefits our postgraduates. And it is up to them to make proper utilization of your advices, suggestions, other things to get their data, whatever they have studied, published. Either it could be case reports or it could be their own studies. Now coming on to the end of the session, I wish to thank Dr. once again Upendra sir for accepting our invitation and sharing his expertise. I also thank Dr. Kiran sir for hosting this session, Dr. Vijay Bhaskar sir, and all the executive body members and IAPM AP Association members for their solid support for conducting this webinar. Last but not the least, all the participants who have had interaction and also who took part in this webinar, I also wish to thank them all. Please provide, I request all of you to please provide the feedback through the channel what we provide in the WhatsApp. Please do provide the feedback for us so that we can improve in the further sessions, next sessions. Thank you, sir. Over to Dr. Kiran, sir.
Thank you, Kumar Guru, sir. I think we have come to the end of the session, and I thank everyone and the speaker for the wonderful speech, and also the audience for the participation and interaction. So we'll look forward to have more such sessions in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Let's end this session, today's session. Thank you very much.